First story. My 34 am, wife 32, together 12 years, have been having some relationship issues, nothing huge, and she recently suggested a live-in amicable separation so we can both heal. I asked her if she will be seeing anyone else and she firmly said no. We cannot afford to live apart and we also share a young child. She also expressly stated she wants to stay living together. Because everything too long to list tells me she will want to get back together at some point. So otherwise, we are getting along decent now. Here's where it gets hurtful and complicated. Immediately after, she dyed her hair, started showering and shaving before going out, and began coming home at 2 o'clock 4 a.m. I'm not normally a Snoopy type, but I looked in her bag and found lingerie, sex toys, bondage straps, etc. It's actually messing with my head so bad, I literally had one meal in 5 days, I can barely work or function. I had to go to the doctor to get anxiety medication from having panic attacks. I need to leave, but she can't afford rent on her own, and she can't afford childcare, and I'm worried about our child, and I don't make enough to be a single parent either. Right now I'm still being amicable and friendly for our child's sake, and don't currently plan to confront her. I'm too heartbroken to even pursue a sexual relationship for myself. It wasn't even something I was interested in with anyone else. Has anyone else gone through something like this? Any suggestions to find some inner peace and acceptance of this for the child's sake? I'm being torn apart and feel trapped. Update. So I broke and confronted her. She stayed silent for literally 3 to 4 minutes. Then started blaming me for snooping. Then started crying and came in for a hug, which I pulled away. I'm done. Wife initiated temporary separation and immediately started a kinky sexual relationship, and it's tearing me apart. Second story. I, 31F, got together with my now husband, 34M, in 2016, married in 2018. We're both from a conservative Christian background and we were each other's firsts. I spent my whole life hearing that men have such high libidos, that wives have to beat their husbands off with a stick, etc., etc. I've had a high libido my whole life, so I was definitely not daunted by the prospect. After weeks of sexual tension in those early months, we did the deed and it was great. The next morning, I wanted to go another round, but he didn't. I was surprised by this, but didn't read much into it. But as the weeks passed, I found I was asking for it every day, and he wanted it only about once a week. We eventually talked about it, and he explained that he had a low appetite for sex. He hadn't masturbated for 3 years prior to our physical relationship. This was baffling to me, but I accepted it. Then and now, we have a great friendship and I enjoy his company. I thought that was enough. We had about 2 years of pretty good sex, but far less of it than I wanted. If I didn't push for it, he would probably only want it about once a month. With plenty of nagging, I got it about once a week. I felt absolutely ridiculous, the stereotypical nagging wife, but instead of nagging him to clean and do chores, I just wanted him to fuck me. This really affected my self-confidence and eventually I lost steam and stopped asking. I just took care of business on my own. He knew I was taking care of my own needs. I made no attempts to hide it. Sex toys out in the open, raunchy books strewn about, sometimes even sending him the porn I was watching to try and get him in the mood. Sometimes it would reel him in, but mostly it wouldn't. In 2018, he developed some health issues, both physical and mental, and our sex life took an even greater hit. Spring 2019 was the last time we regularly had sex. From spring 2019 until spring 2023 we averaged single digits annually. Spring 2023, spring 2024 has been zero. His health issues caused him to quit working. He has been a shut-in with no friends, no job, no life for 6 years. I am the sole breadwinner and I take care of most of his needs. He does no housework, no cooking, nothing. But a vow is a vow, so I stuck with it, even though it was killing me. He knew how unsatisfied I was. I made no attempts at hiding it. Eventually, he began to fetishize my discontentment. He developed a cuckolding hot wife kink and loved the idea of me going elsewhere for my satisfaction. It was purely a fantasy, but I also loved the idea of being satisfied, so I played along even though the kink wasn't really my thing. The only way I could get him to do anything sexual with me was through cuckold roleplay, so I did what I could to get what I needed. He encouraged me to start a Reddit account to share nudes and sex with Redditors, which I did. Sorry to those who are curious, it's deleted now. It was more for him than it was for me. In the year 2023, we had sex twice, both in May, once before he left for a trip, once when he got back. While on that trip, he told me to act on the hot wife fantasy. I took very little convincing. I went on Tinder, matched with a great guy, and enjoyed a single day of very hot sexting. I sent my husband screenshots the next day. He said it didn't feel as good as he expected. He took back his permission to have sex with this guy. I was furious and sexually frustrated. I asked for permission to continue sexting, which he granted but wasn't happy about it. A few days later, he told me how sad it was making him. I was even more frustrated by this point, so I asked for a separation to work through some things. I said in that conversation that if we found other people who made us happy, that would be okay with me. I thought that was clear enough that we would not be exclusive during this separation. I met with that guy from Tinder twice over the course of 2 weeks. We didn't have sex, but we made out and did some hand stuff, and I was very eager to continue. He and I are still good friends and he checks on me often. My husband hates this, so I stopped responding. After those 2 weeks, my husband and I reunited at a wedding. We spent the day together. At some point, he asked me if we were still exclusive. I said no. He got very upset. I told him I thought he knew those were the terms of our separation, and he said he did not know that. I told him I would pause my pursuits until he and I were on the same page. I had no interest in cheating on him behind his back. Cue the biggest curveball of the century. 2 days after that wedding, I started vomiting at work and my nipples were really tender. It seemed crazy, but I took a pregnancy test in my office bathroom. I was pregnant. I had an IUD, I have PCOS, and he has a varicose vein in his testicle that the doctor said rendered him infertile. But somehow we had gotten pregnant in May, and let me remind you, those 2 times in May were the only times I had had sex in 2023. We got back together. He wanted the details of what happened between me and the Tinder guy. I shared with him everything he wanted to know. He was furious. He said I dropped a nuclear bomb on our relationship. I desperately did not want to have a baby. I hoped beyond hope for a miscarriage because I didn't have the guts for an abortion. But here I am, a year later. I have a beautiful baby girl whom I don't regret at all. But my husband hasn't touched me since we conceived her. He's still mad that I had an affair. He still isn't working. We were forced to move into my parents' house to survive. About a month ago, I had a breakdown and begged him to leave, saying I needed space. He said no, that he'd rather step up around the house and try to fix things slowly, rather than doing something drastic. I conceded, but have been struggling a lot since. I finally had another breakdown last week, and this time I have convinced him to move out on his own and get a job. I tried convincing him by saying that it would be good for my mental health and therefore good for the baby, but the thing that convinced him to do it was to say we're not breaking up, that I want to continue our relationship once he has a job and is able to support himself. Those were the only conditions he was willing to leave. But I don't want to continue in this marriage. The dead bedroom combo ed with the unemployment is a doozy. So I have 2 questions. Do you think it would be wrong of me to drop the divorce bomb once he's out on his own, even though he thinks this is a temporary separation? I feel bad for lying and manipulating him to get him to leave. Should I be more honest about my long-term intentions now before he leaves? More importantly, the question that has bothered me for the last year, would you consider what I did last year to be an affair? He insists it is, but I'm curious what strangers on the internet have to say about it. Dead bedroom. Husband developed a cuckold fetish, told me to go for it. He revoked his permission once I got it going. I got frustrated and separated from him. During that separation, I made out with another guy. Husband considers that an affair. We're back together because of a surprise pregnancy. What should I do? Third story. I, 36M, have been married to my wife, call her Jess, 34F, for 7 years. She was the love of my life, and up until yesterday, I thought we had a very strong marriage. Good communication, good sex, shared hobbies. I felt like I could tell her anything, and I did. I thought she felt the same. I am a senior software engineer and work on a product that most people use every day. My manager, call him Josh, is a super gregarious guy. Jess and I have been to his house and vice versa on many occasions for team barbecues and eventually just as friends. Jess loves Josh's wife, and I had no reason to think anything suspicious was going on. I'm crying writing this and I feel so stupid. Jess had always told me she never wanted children, and neither do I. It's never even come up once. So it was weird when I glanced at her phone and saw her shopping for baby onesies. I was like, are those for me? And she didn't laugh but said almost offensively that Josh's wife was expecting and she wanted to get something for the baby shower. I thought this was weird because Josh hadn't mentioned anything about that, and I know through Jess they've had issues conceiving. Normally I would think this is a breach of trust, but I just felt like something was off, so I looked through Jess's phone while she was asleep. Thank fucking God I did. I found texts between her and Josh from a few weeks ago where she's saying shit like I'm actually pregnant, and I want to keep it in. Josh like we can't tell anyone yet. I'm crying. The betrayal and rage is beyond anything I have ever felt. I don't know what to do. I'm at an Airbnb because I can't kick her out of the house since we co-own. I took screenshots, but I don't know if I want to risk my career by reporting this to HR or something. I haven't talked to a lawyer. I don't know how I can move on from this. I want to hurt them. I want to hurt myself. I had a vasectomy so the baby can't be mine. Update. I talked to a lawyer friend. I'm gonna head home because my wife is wondering where TF I am, and he told me to play dumb for now while I sort my financials out and get ready to serve her the papers. Thank you to all who gave me real advice and support. It reminded me that I am not alone. Fourth story. Hey guys, I need some advice on this issue. I found out today that my wife has nudes, pics and videos of herself on her phone. We've been together for 6 years, dating included, and I've never received a single nude or sexual text from her. I haven't seen if there was anything else, as I only checked through her phone while she was showering, and I heard her coming out of the toilet after seeing her nudes. I know it might be scummy that I lacked trust by checking her phone, but it was because she started behaving really strangely. She started bringing her phone everywhere with her, immediately locking her phone screen if I ever walked behind her, using an earpiece everywhere in the house even though she never listens to music ever. She's also been in a good mood recently. She's normally really tired after work and takes naps, but she's stopped that and is always sleeping really late, almost as if she's waiting for me to fall asleep first. We are both 30 years old and have only married for slightly longer than 2 years, hence the need for some advice with more experienced people. My hand is shaking in anger as I'm typing this, and I'm tempted to confront her about it, but the rational side of me is telling me to gather as much evidence as I can and to tie up any loose ends financially first before confronting her. I need help on what I should be doing before the big confrontation. This part here is just a rant, but I'm already so burnt out from working long hours to pay for mortgage, renovation loan and bills in the house. She earns a decent amount, but I've told her that I'll still pay for almost everything, as I've always felt it was my duty as a husband, and she could keep and save or spend whatever she earned herself. Seeing this today feels like it's going to drive me over the edge of my sanity after all I've done for her, but I'm still trying to hold on by a thread. Fifth story. Should I stay with my 20 MGF, 19F? For background knowledge, we've been together for 3 years. In our first year we ran into an issue with one of her friends, 18M. getting way too close, causing issues between us. We moved past it and it helped bring us closer together. Things have been great, we get along awesomely. She gets me better than anyone else. I'm happiest when I'm with her. Our goals align. And we have the same values. I certainly feel like I've found my soulmate. I'll call him Jay, 24 AM. Jay works at the same store my GF works at. They met about a month ago and instantly became friends, which I'm okay with. But after a month they started hanging out a lot and texting and calling late at night. I work a lot so it's hard to find time during the week for her. So we spend our weekends together, which she has told me she is cool with, but every night she's been staying up till 2 AM on the phone with Jay. Then things got a little hairy between me and her. She admitted she felt I had been too sexual and she felt like I've kinda been using her. So we had a major conversation about that and I tried my best to reassure her and own up to it. I don't want her to feel that way, so I'm working hard to make her feel better. I thought all was good. Then on Monday night I went to bed at 8 PM, and I woke up to a buzz. It was a text from her sister. Nothing important. But it woke me up. And I hadn't gotten many texts from my GF after she got off work, which was weird. So I checked her location and she was sitting at CVS and it's 2 AM. So I called to check up on her, and she says everything is fine. She is just chilling and feels sad about something. She told me not to worry and we hung up. Well, I worried. 30 minutes later I'm on the road at 2:30 to go see if she is okay. I pull up and there is her car right next to Jay's car. My stomach sank. I walk up expecting to find them in the car. They weren't there. I turn around and she was walking out of the store with him and she saw me. She just looked surprised. I began to cry because it felt like the last time this happened, Jay left. And she tried to reassure me nothing was happening and they were just hanging out. Eventually I calmed down and we both go home. Well, I went to work and just kept worrying, so I went home because my stomach was hurting so bad at the thought. And I waited for her to get home. And we talked and again she reassured me nothing is going on, there are no feelings. I thought I could believe her. We went to bed and I woke up at 3 worrying, so I grabbed her phone. Went through texts, found nothing. Went on Discord and that's when my stomach sank again. I didn't scroll far but he was calling her darling, love, baby. And then I saw a photo of her in a sports bra and briefs. He called her mommy and said he'd like to fuck that, and she said oh yeah. Well, I'm freaking out now and I storm into her room and kinda nudge her awake, and I'm like, WTF is this? She played it off and said he flirts with her but she doesn't flirt back. I just couldn't accept this, so I said it's me or him. She said she picked me, and that she would block him on everything and that she loves me and only me, and that she would call him telling him she doesn't feel comfortable with him talking like that and that she didn't want to be friends anymore. She did just that, showed me everything, she blocked him, and I didn't see the rest of the Discord messages, but I can assume there's so words exchanged. Should I continue our relationship? Any advice? I love her but I DK if I can move past this. 6th story. We had been in a relationship for almost 2.5 years before we got married. It happened back in December of 2023. We got married in February 2024. So how we got around marrying came with some problems too. We were in a relationship since October 2021. And in June 2023, he had to move to a different country for his job, which he also did so we could live a better life in the future. LDR was difficult as hell. We would fight and make up, but the distance was a big issue because we missed each other like hell. Anyway, he came back in August, gave me a surprise. We met, we were happy. And he talked about getting married because of all the fights we used to have and taking me with because we come from a Muslim background, so couldn't do a live-in relationship because our families were involved too. Anyway, fast forward October, we started having problems and he time and again told me that he felt it was too soon to get married and told me subtly in some ways too. But we kept talking about getting married anyway. Fast forward November, I felt he was getting distant and we talked less. It didn't feel like I was in a relationship. He was sad most of the times too. I asked him, why are you being this way, to which he said, we will discuss after I'm done with my exams. On December 11th we had a conversation about the marriage, and how he felt rushed, and that I did not listen to him, that he didn't want to get married and he didn't feel as involved in such a huge decision of his life. I said, you were the one who proposed the marriage idea in the first place. He said, only because we used to fight all the time. And if we didn't get married you would break up with me, so I had to give in. We had a huge argument. We cried. I practically begged him to marry me because families were making preparations, etc. We talked. I apologized for rushing him into it and that once we are together we will be happy and all that crap. He said marriage is risky. If this is the only reason we are getting married, for you to come here. After a lot of fights and arguments he decided to go through with it. We actively kept communicating till our wedding day and it felt good. Fast forward to February, we got married and moved to his country. We were extremely happy. We loved every second of it. He told me how wrong he was and couldn't believe he didn't do it sooner. Apologized to me for making MW go through so much crap for nothing. In April 2024, he got sick after Eid and I was very worried, took care of him, fed him, etc. But after a few days he started feeling anxious all of a sudden. The anxiety was so bad he couldn't sleep, he couldn't eat. I was very worried. We went to a lot of doctors for mental health, etc. Anyway, we did our best to get out of this. He told me he felt guilty for making my life hell in December. It was hell and very traumatizing for me. And I see you taking care of me, loving me like I'm your child, and I hate myself for what I did to you during that time and I'm scared you will leave me. I gave him reassurances as much as I could. This kept happening for days, but started getting better after like a week. I had to fly back to my country because of some emergency. This was May 2nd. He was going to fly back on May 28th because we are going to spend June here for Eid. Anyway, 2 nights ago we slept over at my friend's. He fell asleep early and that's when I went through his phone. I saw messages from a girl, let's call her Z. He had messaged her, said hi, how are you, etc. But later the messages were flirty. Like, I miss seeing your face and I hate that I deleted your media from my Snapchat. She had replied, wait, let me fix that, and then I'm guessing Sam might have sent him a selfie or something. There were also jokes about getting her a Cartier bracelet and jokes about getting a camera installed in HR room so they could talk all day. Anyway, I read everything. Then I went into his best friend's conversation, who is a girl, and went back to the conversation he had with her during December when we had those fights. I found out that he had cheated on me with this Z girl on December 8th, few days before our fight. He was talking to her since the end of November and then they met on December 8th. I confronted him when he woke up. He admitted and was apologetic. I told him to give me details right now. He told me at first it was just a kiss, and I kept saying do not lie to me right now, and then he started opening up. First he said he also went down on her, and later same day, he said it was sex. I said whose place? He said hers. Next day he admitted that it was our apartment. He said he wants to be completely honest now, and that this is the whole truth about it. I completely lost my shit. Mostly because our relationship, our marriage was fucking perfect. We loved each other and cared for each other so much. He was the perfect husband and actually the perfect boyfriend before this happened. He was apologetic and told me that it was a mistake, and he thought if I had told you, you would have broken up with me and called it off. And I didn't want that. I wanted to spend my life with you, and even in the moment of sex I stopped midway because I knew it was wrong. And I told Jet Woman, we can't do this, to which she shouted at him, called him names and cut his call. Happened 2 days after he cheated on me. Said the only reason I stayed in contact was out of fear that she might tell you. I tried to stay on good terms because she liked me and she was pissed at me for going through with the marriage. She knew you and I, though she would tell you. I said there are better ways to stay on good terms, and the way you had messaged her exactly a day after I had left was disgusting. You were flirting with her. His excuse is that was the only way I thought I could keep her on good terms. There was no intention of pursuing anything. He does say it was wrong, but I felt overcompensating might work, and that's why I texted her the way I texted. I am not denying that we were in a very bad place when he cheated. We were barely talking, only fighting, and felt very distant. He is apologizing to me and begging me to give him a second chance. I told him to tell his parents what you did to me and get tested for STDs. He did both the things today. He said he would do anything I ask of him, but just wants a chance. He is actively asking for a second chance. Says, "Don't forgive me, but please come back to the country we moved to, and give me a few months, let me fix it." I told him there is no fixing what you have done. Nothing will ever be the same. My trust or my love or my respect, I am heartbroken. There are other details, but he says he was not in the right headspace and everything he said that time about this experience to his best friend was not true. I don't believe it. He also said the whole thing lasted 4 minutes because I pulled out and I knew it was a horrible thing to do. His mother came to me. She told me she will support whatever decision I take because her son fucked up bad. Tried to console me and everything. I haven't told my family yet. Husband cheated on me 3 months before wedding and I just found out. I don't know what to do.